Hi everybody. This week's tip is going to be short. I'm going to keep it short and sweet, at least this video portion. Um, it's time to start thinking about final papers, and in all of my classes you've received assignments at this point where you are asked to use APA citations and a reference list. So a lot of students, I know it's tedious, nobody really enjoys this, okay? And your teachers don't enjoy, we don't enjoy having to assign it, because then we have to mark it too, and it sucks, all right? But a lot of students sometimes don't understand why this isn't so important. And I know, like, in other courses you use MLA or other things like that, but whatever it is your teacher is assigning to you, citations are super important. And maybe some of you have had this explained to you already and you get it, but think of it this way. It's kind of a receipt. You know, if you go to a store somewhere and the cash is, way at the other end, and then you get to the door and the thing goes beep, 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 beep. If you have your receipt and they look at your stuff and you can prove that you paid for everything that is in your bag, well, then you've proven that you haven't stolen it. Citations are your proof that you haven't stolen ideas and words. Okay, so those of us who are professionals in our field, we write articles and stuff like that, and then if ever we read somebody else's work and they took our words or our ideas word for word, it's like they're pretending, they're passing something off as theirs that's not theirs. So when you're doing this, it is a theft, and the penalties can be kind of harsh. I mean, sometimes we know students aren't doing it on purpose and they're just not used to how to paraphrase properly. And, so that's a thing, but it's something you really need to learn, especially if you're planning on going to university. At Vanier, if you get caught once, you get a 0, you get a letter put in your file. If you get caught a second time doing something like this, then you might be suspended, in university, it's like they're even harsher than that. So you really don't want to do this. And actually, it's not as hard and complicated as it seems. So what I suggest you do next time you're bored, or next time you have some energy to do something that isn't that interesting but that you do need to know, look at this here, and I'll remind you of the link. This is you already have the link to my resource site here where there's all kinds of resources. So what we're focusing on now is the tab where there are APA tips. And so the first couple things you're going to want to look at is just kind of the general ideas here. And so if I click here, it takes me to, this is all internal to Vanier, and it explains what cheating and plagiarism are. And, cheating is one thing, but here we're talking about plagiarism specifically. They're related, but plagiarism is anytime you use somebody else's words or ideas. And sometimes, like, if you're copying something almost word for word, say a paragraph, and you're just using the thesaurus to replace some of the words, that's still plagiarism, okay? Or just, even if you're paraphrasing, every other word, but you're still keeping the same order of ideas, that's plagiarism. So it's not just about citations. So you really need to understand this. So take a minute at some point, look at this to understand the principle behind it. Then here there's, how to do it. So referencing and citing your sources. You have some resources here. At the college, the two typical ones used are APA and MLA. I think a lot of your English and humanities teachers use MLA. In the social sciences, we all use APA at Vanier. So this is what you're going to want to look at here, this link here. There's also the Social Science and Commerce Student Success Guide that you can link to, and it has an APA section. And, and so I have a look at those if you're still kind of like, what is this anyway? And in whatever assignment I gave you, I already broke it down in the two main components that you're using. So one is the citations in the text, right? So if you have, a few sentences where information that you got from a book or an article, then you need to use those in-text citations, which is what you see when you see the author's name or names when there are multiple authors, and the date and the page number. That's a citation, which is not the same as a quotation. A quotation is when you put things word for word with the quotation marks, and then you still need the citation at the end. All right? Whereas your references, your reference list is a list at the end on the last page. It's a page of its own, and everything is listed according to the standards of APA. So, you have that information here in this. If you click on using the APA style, it'll kind of give you it looks different if you're using a book, if you're using a web page, if you're using an article from EBSCO. Like, these things are all different, and you don't need to know it by heart. You have these guides, but before you send in your assignment, you have to look at those guides, because students use points for these technicalities. Okay, and sometimes a lot, especially if there's a draft version and we've already told you to fix this and then you don't. So if we go back here to that first link, there's some videos here. So paraphrase. So these were all made by Vanier staff, and they go over PowerPoint. So again, if you've gotten comments from me or any other teachers that say, bad paraphrasing, you need to work on your paraphrasing, this should be the first one you look at. Because in these small papers that you're being asked to write for these courses of mine, and yes, 750 or 1,000 words is a small paper. When you get to IP, you'll understand what I mean, okay? So look at this. Look at how to paraphrase. What are in-text citations? There's a video on that. How to quote properly, right? There's a way to do it. You can't just take a sentence from a source and stick it in your essay and just let it sit there. It needs to be attached to things. Your reference list. And here, what is plagiarism? So, take some time maybe over the course of the next few weeks as you're working on these assignments and look at these sources. And if you have questions, please let me know. I'd rather you ask me than lose senseless points in your assignments at the end. So that's the tip of the week. Go read up on APA. Yay!